It seems like people are starting to come on now. Hi, everyone, and welcome. I am Sophia Ichizawa with AARP Massachusetts. This is the first session of our 2023 Digital Literacy Series. And today we'll be learning about digital storytelling. You can go to AARP.org/map.
How come I can't get it on?
Are you?
There we go. Sophia, I believe your sound.
Oh,
there we go. Okay.
Oh, there we go. I don't know how that happened. All right, let's try this one more time. All right. So hi, everyone, and welcome. I am Sophia Ichizawa with AARP Massachusetts. This is the first session of our 2023 Digital Literacy Series, and today we will be learning about digital storytelling. You can go to aarp.org/ma-digital to find out more about the other topics we will be covering in this series. You will also find many other helpful and relevant offerings at aarp.org/near-you. I will put all these links in the chat once I finish with this introduction. We maintain a deep focus on the health and financial security of people 50 and over and their families, and you'll find that reflected in our offerings, our resources, and in our advocacy. Digital literacy means better understanding the tools and devices that can connect you to vital information, provide pathways to personal fulfillment, and give you a sense of being connected and more informed. This seminar today is brought to you by AARP. Over 60 years ago, the American Association of Retired Persons was founded by a retired high school principal, Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus. From the start, AARP focused on preserving the financial security and health security of older people. What's important to know is that with many of our members still in the workforce, we are no longer called the American Association of Retired Persons. We are AARP. We are a 38 million members strong with over 670,000 in Massachusetts. I also want to take a minute to share with you about how AARP is fighting for you. We are advocating across the state and all the way to the United States Capitol to protect Medicare, Social Security, and your financial security. Recently, AARP led the fight to lower prescription drug prices, and we won. Millions of older Americans will now save money on their medications. We will keep fighting for the issues that affect our members in Massachusetts and across the country. For more information on our advocacy work, go to aarp.org/advocacy. And to keep up with us further, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We post about all of our events, our wins, and our calls to action. Today, our presentation is offered by one of our colleagues at OATS, that's OATS. As one of our AARP charitable affiliates, OATS delivers award-winning training programs that are designed to help older adults understand and effectively use technology to increase social connectedness. The mission of OATS from AARP is to harness the power of technology to change the way we age. So thank you so much for making the time to be with us today. And now I am happy to introduce Lillian Rivera.
Thank you, Sophia, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm really excited to discuss digital storytelling, something a new trend that's come up in the past, I'd say 5 years. So we're going to learn about that. Thank you so much for AARP Massachusetts for hosting us. For those of you who don't already know, Senior Planet is a part of the AARP family. Senior Planet from AARP is a national program designed for people 60 and older. But as an affiliate of AARP, we welcome anyone 15 and older to join us. We offer thousands of free online classes to help you build technology skills. Though we are focused on what technology can do to enhance your life, whether that's to improve your health, save money, make new friends, and thrive in today's digital world. If you would like to learn more and join our programs, please visit seniorplanet.org. And just in case you're wondering, the OATS stands for Older Adult Technology Services. And one thing before I start, just know that everybody's muted, but at any point, go ahead and raise your hand or unmute yourself. If you have any questions or comments, I'll be more than happy to answer. If you're more comfortable using the chat, please place your comments and questions on the chat. I will be checking it sporadically. And one last thing, there is a handout for today's presentation. If you can please have your chat box open, that way you don't miss any of the information that I'll be sharing today. I just put the website to Senior Planet, and now I'm going to share the handout. That way you can follow along. If not, remember this meeting is recorded, so you can access this when Sophia sends that out, and then the handout, you can go ahead and save that link on your computer. Alrighty, so let's see here. Let me go ahead and get the link for the handout, and then we'll get started in a couple of seconds. Alrighty, just make sure you have that chat open, and let's get started. Alrighty, let's make that a little bit bigger, and I'm gonna jump to the beginning. Okay, so what we're going to discuss today, first we're going to talk about stories, and that's stories in general. We'll look at types of stories and the benefits of storytelling, and then that will give you a great introduction to why use digital storytelling tools. So instead of telling a traditional story, this is going to focus on sharing stories with your friends, with your loved ones, with some of your followers. And you're going to do so using the digital tools that are available on social media and some other digital storytelling sites. We will talk about these sites, and we'll look at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, so you could see what a digital story looks like. We'll check out the website and Woven to give you a little bit more I guess a little bit more of an explanation on how other individuals use digital stories to kind of market themselves. So InWoven's really good for that. And then we'll look at some other digital storytelling projects. I found one from PBS. So that would be a really good site to show you all. Alrighty, now before we get started, let's talk about why tell stories. You can be in charge of how your story is told, okay? It's a powerful tool to share your interests and ideas for change for others. If you are wanting to, or if you are a storyteller, you can use a story for a variety of purposes. So if somebody has an issue they would like to talk about, you can describe that using a story. You can provide some background regarding an issue, and this could be anything. This could be something that you're advocating for, something that you're passionate about, something personal, like an autobiography. You are in control of how you're going to share the story because you are the storyteller. Now, stories are meant to be read and heard. So it's important how you share the story. For older adults as storytellers, you can reframe or even challenge the way society sees aging. While stories can be any time range, so they could be what happened yesterday, what happened a week ago, what happened years ago, you'll be able to share your story depending on your timeline, whatever you have in mind. Some people share their whole life story. Some types of stories that people are sharing, and remember, this is the traditional way of sharing stories, so most of these are written. But some of these that you see on your screen can be turned into digital storytelling. And later on, I will show you the tools on how to do that. But some examples are autobiographical stories, So you would tell the story of one's life from their own perspective or point of view. You can do memory or event-based stories, which the focus is on one memorable event or one life experience the person wants to share or if you want to share. Instructional stories. So if you're looking to tell life lessons that a person wants to pass on to others, and usually future generations, you can use instructional stories. Fictional stories. They do not have to be based on real events, and actually, fictional stories give the writer more artistic freedom. So, not all the stories that you create have to be non fictional. They can be fictional, and they can even be comic stories. So, you can use humor to tell a story, and you don't have to go so deep or it be so serious. The last bullet point there I can think of for the digital world, TikTok would be a great platform for doing comic stories. There's a lot of funny videos on there. Okay, now here's a part where I would like to learn a little bit from you. So there's 2 questions on the screen. If you can please unmute yourself and answer them, I'll be more than happy to hear them. For those of you who feel a little bit more comfortable using the chat, go ahead and type your responses. So the first bullet of questions is, have you written a story? And if so, what did you use to write that story? How did you share it with others? And then the second question is, can someone give us a quick description of a story you would like to tell? So I'm going to pause the presentation for a moment. And if you can please unmute yourself or raise your hand, you can put your answers on the chat. I would love to hear, have you ever written a story? Have you, and if so, how did you share it? What was it about? And I'll give you some time to think about that. I see Maria Vistica. Did you want to share?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Perfectly fine.
Okay. One time I did a caregiving experience with an aunt who lived in the center of Manhattan, and I wrote a short story called Aging Gracefully, because my aunt was such a character. She was in complete denial on her age, but she was in her 90s and she was funny, but she was getting dementia. But I shared it with a writing group that was held at the Watertown Library. That's all I've shared it with so far.
Interesting.
But it was fun to write, and I'd like to write more.
That's great. That's a great example of a story to write, especially for older adults that are experiencing those type of changes. Thank you for sharing, Maria.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Fernanda says, I have never. Okay. Barbara Friedman, I have written stories every week in a creative writing class. Many classes for senior writing are offered through college senior programs. Oh, that's great to hear. Michelle says, I have not written a story. I have been gathering our ancestry and would like to present it in a story format. And that is becoming way more popular, especially with the submitting your, I guess sometimes saliva to get your DNA results. I know a lot of people who are tracking down people in their family have created a tree timeline. So that's awesome to hear. Judy Goldberg, I use my memory and experience, present the stories in Toastmasters International Club meetings, on Zoom, and other events. Wow, that's awesome. Sandra, recently retired and planning some travel. Hope to be able to share the fun we are having with friends. And Sandra, you're at the right place because I will show you how you can share your photos and you can create a digital story and create kind of like a timeline. So from when you got to your vacation towards the end. And then you can also add certain captions to your photos to tell the story a little bit better. Elizabeth said, I wrote a story about creating my sister's garden with a group of friends. Oh, that's awesome. James, as a member of a small writing group, I wrote a few chapters of my life memories. We shared drafts and gave each other feedback. Eventually, I'll polish these for my family members. And that's coming from Pam. Very nice. And let's see here. I'll read one more just so we can get to some of that digital storing tools. Lynn, I would like to tell the story of growing up with a parent suffering from substance abuse, but with a positive, hopeful message. That is absolutely great, Lynn. That sounds like it would be a really interesting story. Very popular topic that some people may not necessarily want to talk about, but if you can do so in a positive, hopeful manner, then that's great. All righty. And Mary, I'm going to read this one. It's a little lengthy. So Mary, thank you for sharing. I attended a series of Tell Your Story meetings on Zoom 2 years ago and started to facilitate my own classes a year and a half ago on Zoom. So you're really good on Zoom. That's great. And now I'm doing it in person. I started in person at my COA Senior Center. I use forever.com to document my own story and have made a photo book to journal my story. Wow. I have never been on forever.com, so maybe when we get to the other platforms, you can share a little bit about it. Thank you everyone for sharing. That's awesome. So let's go back to the presentation and talk about the digital stories. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so some of the benefits of storytelling. And, you know, I say these benefits because I don't know if you're like me, I can chat away for however long, but I'm not really good at writing it down. I'm more of a verbal person. But when you tell a story, it helps you reflect on life. And it can be something that you can draw on past experiences to relate to current ones. So kind of like a reflection and how that applies to the status quo. You can work through challenging times and thrive in adversity. And I say that bullet point because sometimes writing things down, even like journaling, can help you work through some challenging times. For me, writing a list of what I need to do for the day helps my anxiety. So that's another great way to, another great benefit of storytelling, writing things down. And then you can share ideas with future generations. You can preserve your ideas, your memories for the future generations that are coming. Now, why use digital storytelling tools? So traditional ways of telling a story, writing it down, writing a journal, writing an article, writing a book. But with this digital world and with technology advancing, it's good to be familiar with some of these digital tools. And in doing so, you can learn how to tell your stories digitally. So it'll help keep a digital record of your story. You can share stories easily with whom you choose. So I know some people are worried about privacy and sharing, but you can control the security and privacy on your story. So it can be a public story, it can be a private, or it can be for a selected amount of individuals. And you can use your digital storytelling tools to enrich your stories by adding photos, video, and audio. So that's a really thing for people like me that are visual. Now, you can write stories collaboratively wherever you are, thanks to some of these software programs like the Google Workspace. You are able to work on certain things like PowerPoints or photo editing, and you can share your creations with others so they can edit it or they can even add to it. So that's something that has been easier to do thanks to these advancements in technology. And if you go to seniorplanet.org, you can check out some online classes on Google Workspace. I'm not sure when they're coming up, but we have done some in the past. And we'll give you a brief demo on how to share some of your creations. Okay. Now, as far as storytelling and social media, the best thing that I can say is when thinking about digital storytelling, think about the stories feature on some of these platforms. So that's what we're going to look at. Now, Instagram was the first platform to introduce this story concept. For those of you that use social media heavily, you might see something at the top of the screen, whether you're on your phone or a computer, and it'll show the people that you follow or people that are your friends, their story. So you just click on their profile and you'll see a quote unquote story. And it's usually a visual story as a snapshot of videos and photos. The story that we're going to look at in a moment is through Loft. They have this campaign called Giving Back, and it's actually a great example of what a typical story looks like. This one's a little bit longer, but at least you'll be able to see what a story on social media looks like. So let's explore that. So I'm going to go to the Senior Planet Instagram page. And notice on top, you see these circles. These are the stories from people that Senior Planet follows. So this is Janet S. Planet. She's our demo person. And I'll click on some so that you can get a preview of what a story looks like. So this is ABC News. And they're using this digital story platform to share some news. So ABC News uses stories to share news, latest news. And then I don't know if you can see at the top, I apologize, it's a little bit small, but there's a bar and each little bar indicates a new story. So once the white line is solid, then it jumps to the next story. And that's how ABC News shares. The next one I want to sample, this is our mayor, Ron Nirenberg, and I guess he's installing a fire alarm for his house. So he's doing a story with the American Red Cross, and in his story, he's incorporating some questions. And notice how he added some graphics to his picture. Let me see if I can go back. There it is. And he added some captioning. So these are typical social media digital stories. Okay. And I found them at the top of the page. So it's people who I follow. Now I'm going to show you the Loft Giving Back story. And this is the Loft, the clothing brand, Instagram. So you can see all their posts. It's usually campaigns and new clothing they have for the seasons. But at the very top, right below the Loft circle, in this row right here, I'm going to click on Giving Back. And this is a great example of what a digital story can look like that has a lot of activity. So for those of you that, if you have any questions on it, I can explain it, but let me go ahead and give you a preview. And let me stop sharing for a moment. I want to make sure I have the sound. So if you have any questions on this story, go ahead and interrupt me. I'll be more than happy to explain more. So I'm going to click on the heart. It says Giving Back. And we'll let it load. There it goes. So this is Giving Back, and it's talking about Women's History Month, and we're going to meet several women and see what they do. So the questions include several. So each profile includes several questions for these ladies and how Women's History Month is relevant. So notice how I can also pause on the story. So I'm hitting play to let it play. I can also unmute it. Sometimes your video will have no sound. That's up to you. Mary, yes, there is going to be a recording of this presentation. Yes. And Sophia will also include the handout. So you'll have that. I believe it takes about 24 hours for the recording to be completed. So you should expect that tomorrow. I'll let Sophia mention a little bit more details towards the end. So then this Giving Back story, now we're meeting Amani. And this is a question for Amani. She teaches in STEM. who's your superhero, Madame Curie. So now we're meeting Christy. She's a teacher in kindergarten, and they're asking her what Women's History Month means to you. So you see how we're kind of reading a story, but using social media, photos, some visuals to tell the story, okay? And that's something that you can do when you're creating a digital story. So now we're meeting Amanda. She's also a kindergarten teacher. And again, at the top, you'll see these little lines, and each line is an image or a question, so that that follows this story. So this story has about, I guess, 50 images and questions. And this is something that you can do to share a story. They decided to select teachers and ask them questions, but you can choose whatever format and whichever social media platform to do so. And speaking of, I'm going to now transition to Facebook. So Facebook also has that stories feature, and just like Instagram, the stories are on top. Instead of clicking the circles, then instead you'll click on whatever account that you're friends with or that you follow will appear here. So the story on Facebook that I can see is from the New Yorker, and I can click on it, and just a little notice, I might have some sounds on these stories, so just watch your volume. Just a little pre-warning. So the New Yorker is at the Oscars, and I can click the next button or let it play. And they're sharing their story on their experience at the Oscars last night. Oops. So there's the stage. He's a reporter for the New Yorker, and he's sharing his experience behind the scenes and some of the celebrities he saw. So this is another great way to do a story. So he could have written like a blog or something, but incorporating some photos allows the reader to see what actually happened. And then he also adds caption to explain what is featured in that photo. Now, usually these stories last for 24 hours. After you publish them, they'll remain on your site, on your profile for 24 hours, and then they'll disappear. Depending on the platform, they could be archived so that you can share later, or they just completely disappear from your profile. And like I mentioned, you have control of who you want to share this, your story with. You can have it set for the public, for just your followers, or just for a certain group of people that you choose. Okay. Alrighty. So like I mentioned, they're usually found on top. The more people that you follow, the more likely you'll see more stories. But if you wanted to create a story, and I'm not going to get too much into the demonstration of it, but if I wanted to create a story, say on Facebook, I would just hit this plus sign in the center under stories, right below my profile picture. And I can either create a photo story or a text story, and both will be similar to kind of like PowerPoint slides, where you can click and see the next either photo or story. And if you decide to do a photo story, all you have to do is click on getting pictures and use pictures from your documents. Or you can create a texted story, and you can start it out with anything. Hi, everyone. Oopsies. And then I can choose the background. Okay. And then I can click on my settings, and this is my story. So I can make it public, I can make it friends only, I can make it custom, or I can look through all my friends and just click on someone that I don't want to see it. So this is up to you. And as you're creating a story, you would do one screen at a time. And then you can also select the font. So your story could start out with, hi everyone, and then next slide, this is the story on my adventure this weekend, and so forth. Mary, yes, you can combine. When you're, let's see here, I'm going to discard this. When you're creating a photo story, then you can insert a photo, add text to it, and then you can insert a text story, and then that's how the audience will see two stories. So you'll be doing it one by one. And at the end of this presentation, I will show you, or I will provide the number for the Senior Planet Tech Support. Let me pause for a moment. We have a department where if you have any questions on anything, it could be your phone, it could be your computer, it could be how do I post a story on Facebook. Our Senior Planet Tech Support line is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can call and you can spend one-on-one time with one of the trainers. They're my coworkers, so I know them very well, and they're absolutely great, patient, and you'll be able to ask them anything. I'll put that number towards the end. Alrighty, now I'm gonna look at Twitter, because Twitter also has stories, but not in the same format Instagram and Facebook do. How you would look for stories. So you notice how there's a magnifying glass here at the top right corner. It says search Twitter. What you can do is you can use a hashtag. So you can do hashtag story. And this will allow you to see some of the stories on Instagram. And this isn't necessarily just the people that you follow. It's going to be anyone who put a story and had that hashtag story hashtag on their profile. Now you can click on the latest, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of stories about the Oscars. So this is how you would see stories on Twitter. In 2021, Twitter pulled its version of stories, so they did have a section, but it was called Fleets. And unfortunately, they removed it August 2021. So now we use the hashtags story, and then I'm going to use the hashtag thread. I'm going to click top for the results, and then I'll be able to see some stories. This person is creating a story on McDonald's. Yeah. You'll encounter all types of stories made by organizations, companies, individuals, celebrities. But that hashtag thread will give you more stories that you can check out. You can also just type a hashtag and you'll see what's trending. So you're going to see what's recent, which was yesterday's Oscars, and then you'll get to see what people posted. This person made a silly video. This person made a little collage since Brendan Fraser won his first Oscar. And remember, it could be on anything. So if you're looking for something a little more specific, you can do a hashtag with whatever it is that you're looking to do. So you can do, let's see if you're looking for travel. So people who do stories on travel, You can type #travel, and then you'll be able to see this person did a story on her travels in Switzerland. It's beautiful. And this one does have sound.
Be running up that road, be running up that hill, be running up that building. And if I only could, I'd make a deal with God.
So the more you start exposing yourself to other people's stories, the more creativity you'll get. This person didn't put any text. She did add a sound and shared her story on the on travel in Switzerland. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the presentation. And we're going to look at Enwoven. For those of you that are a little bit more experienced with graphic design tools or digital tools, Enwoven's actually a really great platform to create stories. It's used by organizations, so they do a lot of advertising campaigns that have stories incorporated, but individuals can use Enwoven as well. And with the multimedia content, you can include text, images, audio, and video of however you would like to share your story. And Enwoven's actually really popular because you can create timelines and maps of events. So it's kind of like a click and read using some of this multimedia. And again, you can look at stories, and then when you create stories, sorry about that, they can be public or private. So you can try enwoven.com/Senior Planet to give you an example of what a story looks like on that site. So let's click on it. Let me go ahead and see if I can share that. Here we go. So it is going to be something that looks similar to creating documents, but what you're going to do is you're going to create a story. And Senior Planet has some stories. And really what you're doing is you're uploading photos so that you can start creating a story. So this isn't really like social media. This is to create your story and then share it wherever it is that you'd like. And the timeline feature that I was talking about, here's a good example. So you would hit timeline, and then you can add photos to the timeline that you've selected. So this would be a timeline for the year 2021. And then each little bar, each little line indicates one of these stories, one of these photos. So if you're looking to make an autobiographical story, then you can include from birth to now, and then each little bar will indicate an event. This is a really basic example because we just use it to demo, but I'm going to go to the New York Times and show you a story that the New York Times made using this Enwoven design. Oh, can you see the screen? Let me try that one more time.
Yeah, we can see the screen.
Okay, wonderful. So let me show you the New York Times Enwoven collection, and I'll share this on the chat, this link here. So they wanted to make a story on the history of the NewYorkTimes.com. And this was based on the 20th anniversary of going digital. So they uploaded several images, okay? But if you click on the timeline, it gives you the story from 1994, the inception of the New York Times going online, to 2000, let's see here. Looks like 16. It's really small, but it's there. And notice how in the little lines, some of them are blue, And that's just to guide the reader. Okay, so the first event was in 94. This is when the New York Times Company launches At Times on America Online, so on AOL. And then they added an image to show the reader what that looked like. So this is what the New York Times looked like on AOL. And look at the graphics. It's definitely from the early 90s. You can scroll down to see the next event. So in 95, the beta model was launched, or you can click the little lines at the top, the blue line, so you can see the next event. So you see how they used Inwoven to create a timeline story with, they incorporated some sounds, some images to show the 20 years of the New York Times going digital. Let's see here. In 95, they did an article on the Pope's visit, and then one of the employees with the New York Times shared his experience with when the Pope visited. So you can click on it and listen.
We had about 6 months, but I think probably less than that, because we wanted to exercise the publishing system, and so we had a site up in the fall when the Pope came to visit. We actually published a discrete site around that visit and then took it down, almost as a kind of practice run.
So that was his experience with the website and the Pope's visit. And like I said, this goes on through January 22nd, 2016, which was the anniversary. And then you'll have some of the writers, some of the people working for the New York Times share their audio experience. And then we'll see some some photos here of the gentlemen that are speaking. And this is something that you can create. You can add places if you'd like. So this can give the reader an idea of where some of these photos were taken. So it looks like we have some in, is this Missouri? Oh, Mississippi, New York, of course, and then there's some over here in Europe. Mary says, do photos get compressed on this site? Can photos be copied? Question, when you say can photos be copied, do you mean like can somebody click and save these photos? Okay, so yes, technically I'm gonna try it. So I right click this image and I can save the image, but whenever you're doing a story, and if it's going to be something a little bit more advanced, like doing a story on Inwoven, you can put some type of disclaimer that this is your property, so that even though somebody saves it, they can't use it because you have the copyright on it. Okay. Now, as far as adding sound, so I'm going to go back to the Inwoven Senior Planet account, and this is what you would see when you create an account with Inwoven. You would just hit New. I'm over here at the left-hand side in the blue box, and you can do upload content. So this is going to allow you to upload photos, but then you can also do a new collection or a new thread. And each time you upload something, you're going to get the option of adding sound or adding text to it. Okay. Alrighty, so back to the slideshow. And I'm going to pause for a moment just to have a little quick discussion. So if you're on Facebook and Instagram, your stories do disappear after 24 hours. If you're on Instagram, though, you can go to your settings and select after 24 hours, when your story disappears, you can archive it. So it could be either saved on your profile or saved in your archive folder. Same thing with Facebook. Some of these other social media sites might allow you to keep your stories as your profile, kind of like TikTok, and some of them, they don't necessarily disappear. Whenever you create a story, you can save it to your device, but they'll disappear from other people seeing it. So if Argelis, if you make a story and 24 hours later or 36 hours later I try to access it, I won't be able to see it because it's already expired. If you want to see it, then it would be saved to wherever it is that you created that story. Great question. Okay, now some other digital storing projects. There's this organization called StoryCorps, and it's a project to record stories that emerge in meaningful conversations. So their goal is to share a story and then later have it used to stimulate some conversations. They have some of the recordings archived at the Library of Congress, and you can see their virtual recordings on their website or on an app that you can download. And let me share the link to StoryCorps. That'll be on your chat. The next one is the PBS American Portrait. And I want to show you this one because it has some stories that can be used in docuseries, but this is a personal storytelling section of PBS. So this is PBS American Portrait. Let me minimize the presentation, and then I'm going to go to the site. So this is on pbs.org. I'm going to put that in the chat as well. And under the American Portrait section, you'll see they created a national storytelling project and interviewed separate individuals to share just a little bit of their life. Okay, so one of the sections of the storytelling was My American Dream, and then what you can do is you can click on each image and see what the person has to say. So if we click on Aaliyah in Livingston, Texas, okay, she created a story using photos and some caption below it. So she's a 13-year-old citizen of the Alabama Coushatta tribe in Texas. She likes to sketch and draw. She likes making people laugh. She enjoys dancing with other indigenous people at powwows. And then you can click the circles at the bottom to see some of her images. So PBS did this and used different categories and interviewed different people. So my family looks like, you can click on the family looks like section, select a family. So Frances in, let's see here, Connecticut, she shares what her family does, what they like, and then you can see by clicking on these little dots, images of her family. So when we looked at some stories on social media, we saw stories on the Oscars, we saw stories on a campaign for women's history. These stories on American Portrait are individuals sharing a little bit about themselves. So stories can be whatever it is that you want to create, and there are different platforms that you can use to create those stories. And I guess they made a book on the American Portrait. So you can click on the full collection so that you can see a little bit more about this project, and then click on some of these individual stories. And there's a whole lot. And then PBS decided to add them all into one big book. Sherry in Chicago. My American story started when I walked into a routine doctor's appointment, and then you can learn more about her story. And notice how she didn't add any photos, and that's okay because you're the one that's going to tell the story. So you can add it whatever it is you'd like. Alrighty, so let's go back to the presentation. Another project is Moth, and it's a story podcast platform, and it gives you also some ideas. So I'll put the link to the website there on the chat. And we have about 5 minutes, so let me go ahead and explore moth.org. So this is moth.org. And you can go to the story section, and they also have live storytelling events. And notice how it says it's a nonprofit organization that celebrates the commonality and diversity of human experience through the art and craft of true personal storytelling. So here's some behind the scenes images, and you could see listen to some storytelling interviews. These stories are designed by listening to them. Between the Rock and a Hard Place by Marguerite Maria Rivas. And you just click listen now. And you'll be able to hear these stories.
In the 1980s, the early 1980s, I was a typical Staten Island working girl going back and forth to my job on Wall Street every day on the Staten Island ferry. And then I got pregnant. I loved that baby from the moment I knew she was there. I went out and bought a Walkman so we could listen to music on the.
And what I like about the Moth is that notice how you have these video controls. You can, or audio controls, you can pause, you can play, you can fast forward. And you can also listen to some of the other storytellers by clicking on each section. And they have a whole lot. So this can give you ideas if you want to create your own story or just listen to, yep, it's very similar to TED Stories, Karen. Or you can just listen just for entertainment or to get to know people out there that are sharing their stories. Alrighty. Last discussion question. Have you ever used social media or other platforms to tell stories? And then what stories are you thinking about sharing now that you've seen how some of these stories come about and how you yourself can make them? What would you like to share? And you can put it on the chat as well. I'll read it to everybody. I think I would like to share, definitely when I travel, I make stories, but as I'm getting older, I think I would love to share a lot about my past or kind of do like a comparison, or if I was this age again, this is what I would do. There's just so many topics and you can interview people to do stories, so there's many ways. So if you don't know any, that's okay. Digital storytelling is fairly new, so if you explore any of these sites that I provided the links to, then you'll get some better ideas on what you can do. And again, you can call the Senior Planet Tech Support line to get assistance if you are creating a story and you're not really sure like where to start or how to use some of these tools. So right now, I'm going to put a lot of information on the chat. But I do want to explain what I am posting. So, oh, I didn't read this. Barbara says, I would share photos and stories from my genealogy research. Okay, very good. Yes, Mary, if you want to share a little bit words on forever.com. And Mary put a link to forever.com ambassador Mary Belson, and it says, please identify who you are if you do reach out to me or leave a voice message. So if you want to click on that site, you'll be able to communicate some of your stories with her. Okay, alrighty. So back to what I was saying. I am putting the link to the handout again, so you'll see that in a moment. And then you'll see the number to the Senior Planet Tech support line. For those of you that might not see the chat, the number is toll-free 1-888-713-3495. So you'll find that on the chat. And then we are open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you write that down. And then the last thing that I want to share is Senior Planet is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are funded by third parties. So if you can please fill out that survey that's included in the chat. It starts with oats.co. Please fill it out so that you can give us feedback on, how I did, how Senior Planet's doing, and if you have any ideas for the future, we would definitely appreciate the feedback. It's not mandatory, but it does help us with our programming. And one more thing that I'll read in the chat before I give the mic to Sophia. Mary says, it's an e-commerce company that offers digitization of old media, forever cloud storage. Oh, that's great. Family research and photos, and I believe she's typing more. But what we're looking at is forever.com to create some stories, and it's a website that I hadn't heard of, so I asked Mary if she could share. So thank you for sharing, Mary. Alrighty, Sophia.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Lillian.
You're welcome.
I hope everyone is inspired to share their stories, because it seems like there were some good stories that should be shared with everyone. But yes, I will be sending out an email with the Senior Planet handout, and as well as this recording. So if you want to look back at whatever Lillian has said, you will be able to do that. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. It's been great having you, and I hope you have a nice week. Stay warm with the snow and everything.
Thank you, ARP Massachusetts. Everyone have a wonderful day. See you next time.